You can build a $40,000 soundproof room and ruin it with one hole. Let me show you the right way to wire electrical through your walls without destroying your isolation. Let's dive in. Alright, so the first thing that we need to discuss is the two different ways to run electrical in your studio. The first one is the more traditional route, which is going to be running your electrical on a flush mounted system like the one shown here. Flush mounted means that you're still keeping the electrical box inside your stud wall. So you can see the stud here, and then our layers of drywall would hit the side of the box with the putty pad around it. Now this acoustical putty pad is a really useful tool, and it needs to go around every single junction box that you have with electrical if you're gonna have flush mounted audio. And it needs to look just like that. So your 4-gang box would look like this, a 2-gang would look similar, but this also needs to go around any light switches as well as any lighting conduit boxes in the ceiling. So no box should be left unputtied, because sound will travel directly through it and come through your studio directly through the box where there's no drywall in front of it. So this is your best bet if you're going to do flush mounted. Now, what about this other option, which is superior from an isolation standpoint, but might be inferior if you're trying to get a really clean looking room? Maybe you want to sell it later and not have the new person buy it. So surface mounted electrical, I wanted to show some images here, is just what it looks like. It's where you're running electrical over the surface. Now, in studios, we do a couple different things. We don't always do it like this, where the audio is actually, or the electrical is running on the exterior of the wall. Sometimes we'll do surface mounted boxes, but then run a hole through the back of the box through the wall and seal it with a small piece of putty pad and acoustic sealant around the wire coming through. And the goal with surface mounted electrical is to just create the smallest hole possible in your system, so that you're not actually going to have as big of a hole, such like a putty pad around a whole box there. So surface mounted is always going to be better. Here's an example of some surface mounted electrical over here. So that is an important differentiation. You can see in this photo here, this the flush mounted electrical like you're used to, and they'd have the putty pads around the back, and then you have the surface mounted electrical where you actually see the box. And some examples of junction boxes that you could use that look nicer are these Leviton boxes. You can use the metal boxes, and ultimately you're going to have to use whatever your electrician recommends due to code in your local area. But this is a nice way to try to keep your audio really, from penetrating your walls with a large hole behind them. Now, I will say the putty pads do work really well. However, if we're doing a really like heavy duty soundproofing for, let's say, like a metal band, I would definitely lean towards surface mounted over flush mounted electrical. If we're doing a studio where we have built-in acoustic treatment, then we can usually run the electrical behind the acoustic treatment, but in front of the isolation shell. So for that to make sense, just imagine that you have your drywall layers creating the sound isolation, the soundproofing around your home studio, and then we build new 2x4 walls in front of the drywall, and we then put insulation and acoustic fabric over that. And you can also add the electrical and any XLR low voltage lines through that acoustic wall as well, which makes it really clean. And this might be the most preferable sort of professional way to do your studio if you have the luxury of having the budget and also the extra space to give up for the acoustic treatment. All right, the last thing that's super important for understanding all this is acoustic sealant. So there's a lot of different types of acoustic sealants out there, and even if you're using putty pads like this picture right here, when you finish, I still like to use acoustic sealant where the actual box meets the drywall and just really seal up around it so it's airtight. The type of acoustic sealant you use doesn't matter to me. I honestly think as long as it says it's meant for acoustic sound isolation, that means it remains flexible over time, and that's really what you want an acoustic sealant to do. So, there's this Quiet Seal Pro, but that's $25. This one's $110 for 12 of these. That's probably what I would go with. Something like RLX is going to cost more than, say, this brand Tight Bond here for $9. So I would go with the cheaper one. Green glue is, generally looking like it's $18 here. I don't think there's any real need to use their green glue acoustic sealant. I think you just pay a premium for it. So yeah, and a lot of times people get confused too with green glue compound versus their acoustic sealant. So just keep a mind in there of you need some sort of acoustic sealant to seal around all the electrical penetrations that you make. When you come through the drywall layers in your wall, if you can make a small hole, you're going to be way better off with that and then filling it with acoustic sealant than having large holes all over your room and not putting putty pads or acoustic sealant around them. All right, so this was a really nice, short, quick video this week that I wanted to explain the different ways to avoid ruining your isolation when you create holes for electrical. A lot of people may get obsessed with like, oh, I just do this really soundproof wall, and then you cut a bunch of holes in your wall and then don't use putty pads or don't use acoustic sealant, and you've just ruined your entire soundproof system. Same thing in the ceiling. A lot of people might put putty pads on the wall outlets but forget about the ceiling outlets or even ceiling light fixtures, and that creates a problem. So all of this to say that the logic is simple. It's make sure it's airtight, and then add mass around anything. So the putty pad sort of acts as mass in this case, and it helps with achieving the soundproof studio that you are after. My name is Wilson Harwood. I am an acoustician and studio designer based in Nashville, Tennessee, and I design home recording studios all over the world. And I'm here to help you guys out with learning how to design and build your own soundproof home recording studios. If you're interested in learning more, you can always reach out for a soundproof clarity call at soundproofyourstudio.com/step1, and you can just jump on a 30-minute call with me where I'll learn more about your project and see if I can help you in some way. If you're not ready for that, there's always the DIY method, which is my soundproofing workshop. This is a 35-minute workshop that goes over everything you need to know to learn how to soundproof your home recording studio. To watch that, just go to soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop, and you can watch that right away. Thanks so much again for watching. I'll see you all next week with more information on soundproofing and room acoustics.